Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat in Waco. Your friend in the car business at Loop 340 and east of 84. Come by. Let's be friends.
All right, here we go. We'll have Ross Dellinger, SI.com. We hope here pretty soon. Paul's Top 5 soon. Don't forget, on August the 10th, Scott Drew, the Green and Gold celebration featuring national champion head coach, hosted by the Downtown Rotary Club of Houston, the ballroom at the Bayou Place, Tuesday, August the 10th, 11:30 to 1. Again, the Baylor alumni and Downtown Rotary Club of Houston, an in-person lunch featuring Scott Drew, and tickets on sale from individual tickets to group like tables, etc., at various prices.
Yeah, we need to make sure John McClain's there. He can cover that for us. But he's probably already well aware of that event going down in Houston, I would imagine. But I did want to add one thing to the report that I brought up a few minutes ago as far as, Oklahoma and Texas not being on that call with the rest of the Big 12 officials. Well, one note that Nicole Auerbach of The Athletic added on to that, they were invited to be on the call, and they just weren't on the call anyways. So,
sorry, we're kind of busy.
Why would you invite them?
I don't know, but she says neither Oklahoma nor Texas are on the Big 12 call tonight. All 10 schools were invited to attend. So, yeah, it wasn't even a matter of they weren't invited. They were, and they just said, no thanks, we're not with you guys anymore anyways. So, I mean, I'm just throwing more gasoline on a raging inferno anyways, but I just thought that was of interest.
Oh my Lord. It's just, they're going to get the leave. They're going to get all of what they want. And the Big 12 is going to eventually settle. Isn't that what they do when you get legal? All right, we'll take half of it. No, we're not going to give you that either. Can you give us a couple of million each? But there's like $150 million here. And none of the schools who are being left behind, none of them are that well off.
You're talking about two schools with 4 years left on the TV deal.
Mm-hmm.
So if they leave early, now I know that like people will say, well, I guess they're just saying they're going to leave at the end of the TV deal. No. I just don't see that. Like you're going to play 4 more years knowing they're going to leave.
Not.
No,
they're going to play this year and they're going to be gone.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I just said that a few minutes ago. I will stand by that. And I think most people are assuming the same as well. I mean, that would just be, it's going to be awkward enough this year. It's just going to be kind of strange to begin with.
Well, remember how what was with all the other ones that left?
Yeah, I wasn't around for that. I wasn't around for that. So this is
yeah, it was.
I was thinking the other day, actually, we've covered pretty much in the time that I've been in Waco, which is a few years now. I was thinking of all like the major things you can cover, and obviously a national championship in football has been elusive, although they've knocked on the door. Like they were first team out in the inaugural playoff. Under an expanded scenario, they would have made it a couple more times here as of late. But, obviously they've covered a scandal, covered conference championships, covered a basketball national championship for both the men and the women. But one thing I missed out on before I arrived was realignment. So get to check that box off now. And I don't know that I'm looking forward to it.
At least the people in power at Baylor have been on the job for more than 17 minutes. Ken Starr got here, and it was like, hey, welcome aboard. By the way,
that's about how long I was here.
I mean, it was what it was.
A couple more of you on YouTube and a few of the others on the text line. We're waiting to hear from Ross Dellinger. From Andrea, do you think Texas gains a recruiting advantage in the SEC because it's cooler to live in Austin versus some of the small towns like College Station and Norman?
I will answer that question for every city in America. No. It's never about the city. It's always about the coach.
From Steve, I really don't think so. Austin is a great town, but no different than most SEC towns. And people, of course, Texas fans or Austin fans or Austin residents would disagree, including our good friend Andrew Baker.
Well, I mean, like Austin's a nice. I mean, well, it was a nice city. It's changed now, but a little bit because it's overcrowded. But
it's still nice. It's just not.
It's not what it was.
What it was. Yeah.
But I'll tell you this: if the nice city meant anything, then San Diego State should be calling people going, where? I mean, that's
Santa Barbara.
Yeah, Pepperdine should have Saban as head coach.
Yeah, exactly. So that doesn't mean, like, Miami's gone through ups and downs, and Miami is a beautiful campus and a really nice part of the city. Like they've gone up and down. It doesn't matter. It's all about the coach, and it's all about the program. Baton Rouge isn't that great of a city, really. I mean,
neither is Tuscaloosa.
It's a college town. SEC attacking us.
I'm like, they're fine, but it's not like they're not San Diego or Honolulu or something. I mean, it's just.
I think of some of the great for the longest time, there's a lot of Norman, Lincoln. I mean, that's kind of what college football's history is.
I think you can find a recruit who's probably chosen a destination for every reason under the sun. I would imagine there's certainly guys who have chosen UCLA or USC to
or Miami,
be in Los Angeles or Texas because of Austin, because maybe they grew up in like Merkel or Corsicana or something, and that's a huge move. And I know there's players out there that have chosen schools for uniforms and coaches and the offense, you can find any reason under the sun why somebody has chosen it, but ultimately is the city that much of a sway? No, I don't think so. I think what you guys are saying is pretty spot on.
Here's a question from 214. Thank you for your text. What does this do to our 2022 recruiting class, or is it too early to tell?
Well, I was thinking about that last night. It's too early to tell. That was a question regardless of any of this stuff going on with realignment. That would be a question just based on, what the football season looks like. If they go out and they put up another 2-10, then that recruiting class is going to be on shaky ground to begin with. So they needed to win more games than they have been recently to try and further cement that recruiting class. But I'm not sure. I mean, maybe if there's a couple of guys that a Texas or an Oklahoma is interested in and they want to start selling that SEC card already, then that could have an effect. But I don't know how many of those guys in Baylor's class have that kind of interest. So it's too early to tell right now.
All right. So, and it is. We don't know, and don't think that they're not having to discuss that among not just in Ames or in Stillwater, but in Waco or up in Fort Worth or in Lubbock, among other places as well. This thing about the Big 12 having a conference call and inviting Texas and Oklahoma to be a part of it. And then
what were they going to say? It's
why,
true?
I'm sorry. Why would you invite them?
That's why the Big 12 is breaking up.
Yeah, I mean.
Because of decisions like that. They left. They're leaving. They're leaving, and they didn't even tell you they were leaving until someone else had to tell you they were leaving. Oklahoma State was completely blindsided. They're an hour and a half away. I mean, they're completely blindsided. So don't extend them the courtesy of it. You make your plans without them, and then you can have a conference.
Boss move.
So you have a conference call later with them if you say, like, all right, here's what we're going to do. Are you guys really leaving? Yes. Okay. Call's over.
And like I just said a few minutes ago, when you're talking about what money they might have to pay, and why I was saying I would not be surprised in any way, shape, or form if they go out with relatively no penalty whatsoever, is because the Big 12 has never had a backbone or cojones. And so they invited the two teams that are basically breaking up the conference to take part in the call about those two teams breaking up the conference. And you mean to tell me they're going to suddenly dig their heels in the sand and really be forceful with OU and Texas over some money? Give me a break.
Here's a great question, but these are things that eventually, I'm telling you, they're not going to lose stuff like this. Like Texas and OU will play every year. It'll be a crossover game if, in fact, they're not in the same pod division, whatever, which they will be. Will the Texas-OU game move to the end of the year or still be played in October? I'm telling you right now, they're not losing these battles. They're not going to lose. They will be that game will be played during the state fair in October, no matter what conference they're a part of.
But that's what the SEC wants, though. They want
sure
that.
They do. That's what
they want that.
But they're not going to give. But even if that was brought up,
what would be an interesting move, and there might be a really easy way to talk the SEC out of this. But if they wanted, there's been talk for a really long time, but there's a variety of reasons for why it wouldn't work. Put that game at night at the state fair. Mm-hmm. But because of the state fair atmosphere is why you wouldn't want that game at night, because too many people will be liquored up and angry and wanting to fight and all that. But that would be a sight to behold, would be that game at nighttime. But it may be too much of a security, safety kind of thing to pull that off. But, I mean, Oklahoma and Texas are going to have some say, maybe on a situation like that rivalry game and whether or not they would ever be interested in moving it or changing up the terms of it. But they're not going to have as much as they used to have. I mean, that's one thing that's very clear.
No, it's a lot of things I got to tell you, when I first saw this, I'm going to tell you as someone who's being selfish about what we do. We love this SicEm365 Radio. It wasn't even in existence until April 6th a year ago. This has given us a lot of your eyeballs and ears, even if some of you don't like what we're talking about or you're you don't understand who we come from or what we do. College football is a major part of what we do, no matter if it's the Big 12 or what Baylor or whatever conference. We have added a bunch of you to what we do, and we've appreciated all of you, even if it's for 2 or 3 days, for 2 or 3 weeks, or 2 or 3 months. But it gave me heartburn. It gave me heartburn because it appeared as if, and not being foolish or naive, but it appeared as if the conference had a drama-free summer, one of the few times ever. And this does shake the boat. This does put dents in the car. This is hail damage. And I don't know the future of what happens with Baylor or anyone else that's left over. I don't. And yes, I look at it that way selfishly, that, boy, a lot of people better have had a plan B, C, and D, and I don't know how many of them did. I wouldn't underestimate some of the ADs or presidents are among the 8 teams that are left out. I wouldn't underestimate it. And are we on the phone? God almighty, this is 24 hours old. That's why they're having this conference call. And eventually we'll be able to hear from either Dr. Livingstone or Jason Cook and or Mac Rhodes, among others. And it'll be interesting to know what they have to say when we hear from them. Mac was on vacation, tucked away, decompressing.
He was, but
part of the job. That's why you make the money.
I look at it that way as that's unfortunate, but I also know he was on the phone with us 2 weeks ago, and I'm not saying this is a slight to Mac Rhodes, but just talk about how out of nowhere this was. As I mentioned in my article today, he was completely blindsided and had absolutely no idea that this was in the works. And like you said, had gone on vacation and thought after the COVID stuff, which Baylor was, of all the schools, was hit probably amongst the hardest of anybody in the entire country year-round with COVID problems. But between that, the NCAA stuff, the NIL, and just one thing after another, you finally get a few minutes to decompress and kind of hit that reset button before everything spikes back up in a major way for the next, 10 months. And this is completely out of nowhere. I'm surprised there wasn't I don't know. I just think it's quite interesting how assuring he was about the Big 12's future just a couple of weeks ago, and how adamant he was about that, and to now know that those were all completely false hopes built on nothing of substance foundationally, and the whole house is just built on nothing really. And it's been blown away. It's crazy. And I can't imagine what must be going, as much as we're reacting to it, I can't imagine what's going through his mind. Because 2 weeks ago you thought, hey, we're finally in a secure place. We're finally, on good ground and solid ground. And now the rug's been pulled out from under you. So I can't wait till we talk to him again.
One final note, this is from Daniel. And Paul's got breaking news on a former Ranger player and sometimes a nightmare. But one of the things that I think Daniel just mentioned this, I believe it was Daniel, that if in fact all the conferences end up going to 16, which was one of those ideas even 10 years ago, 4 16-team power conferences and then whatever Notre Dame decides to do as well. If it does get to the Power 5, includes 64, 68 teams, Baylor will be a part of that. They will be, at least in my opinion. I don't know how, but I think that they still will make the cut among the 64 or 65 or 68. And I think the others, Oklahoma State, Texas Tech, TCU, will be a part of that. And Iowa State, Kansas State, we'll see as well. I'm not trying to leave anybody out, but I do think if it does. But then you all of a sudden let people like Memphis get involved.
What did I just say earlier about Houston?
Yeah, Houston.
I said 2.5 hours ago. If you're sitting there and you're a conference that's looking at moving to 16 and you're looking around, okay, where can we have a Texas imprint? Okay, there's TCU and Baylor, but there's also Houston. That's a much bigger city and a bigger TV market. I think Baylor is hurt by some of the things that have occurred in the past, but there's other schools that have, bad scars. Baylor's are bad, but they've been able to prove over the last few years that that's something that they've turned. It's completely like if people watching online are not going to understand it, but it's just so completely different from what it was like 5 years ago. You can believe me or not, but it absolutely is. And there's that pull of, having the bigger market or just maybe the name Houston as opposed to 2 schools in Texas that are private schools that maybe a lot of people don't know much about. So that's a danger that I think they need to be very aware of. There's let's say 64 teams. Yeah, you have 64 Power Fives already that could fill those spots, but there's certainly a few of those AAC type of teams that maybe are in bigger cities, bigger markets that are definitely going to be trying to get knocking on that door before you. So the politicking will be fascinating.
All right, here's from TJ. Paul, you going back and forth with TJ. All right, when we come back, we'll have Paul's top 5. We'll have, again, thanks to Mark Keaston, Emma, and Armstrong for being a part of our behind the scenes. They are, of course, a part of the backbone of what we do. And the University of Houston, it's a name, it's a city, but for some reason, they've never really been able to be a part of the eyeballs, but it is in the city of Houston. This is SicEm365 Radio.
With